Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on OBP endpoint exceptions. I will give a couple of minutes for any people that are late to join us before we kick off. Just as an information for everyone present, this meeting is being recorded and we will share the recording after the meeting, as well as the slide deck that will be presented today. You may have noticed that the chat option has been disabled. This is to make it easier to follow up on your questions. So you can send in any questions that you may have during the meeting in the Q&A section that is set up for this purpose. We will also share any Q&A that were answered in the chat after the meeting. Okay, it is 2:02. We will kick off. So welcome everyone. As announced at the FMD in October, we have organized a webinar to address the exceptions that your endpoints may be facing. On today's agenda, we will have a description of EMVO's new process to address endpoints that are throwing unresolved exceptions. And then our colleague from SolidSoft will present the kinds of exceptions that you can experience and what the usual resolutions or what directions the resolutions for those issues can be taken. And then we will end on a Q&A session. So regarding our process, starting January 2026, we will have a new process in place to ensure that endpoints exceptions are addressed. So it will be explained later, but the background behind this is that exceptions that are thrown back from OBP endpoints may cause a high volume of unnecessary noise within the EU hub and thus impacting the functioning and the efficiency of the system. So every quarter we will identify the list of endpoints that have been causing exceptions recurrently. You will be contacted at first via your SPOC and SPOC assistant, informing you of what kind of issue your endpoint is experiencing, and then linking the knowledge article where you can find the resolution. Of course, our help desk will remain available and is available for any questions, concerns, or support required in order to fix what we are asking you to fix. So you will have a detail of what exactly is happening so that you know how to address it. You will be given a timeline of 2 weeks to resolve the issue, or at least inform us that you're working on a resolution. Without any feedback from you or reaction on your end from your SPOC or SPOC assistant or technical representative, if you have them present, or if you've included them in line of the email in response to let us know that you've started the process of resolving the issue, then we will send a reminder after that timeline. You will be given another 2 weeks to address and fix the issue. Again, let us know that you're working on it and then confirm that it's been fixed. And should the issue not be resolved and we do not hear from you, then we will disable your endpoints and we will inform you, of course, of that action. Note that this will not impact your activities within the hub. You would still be able to upload and manage product data. However, the alerts that you may have received had your endpoint been active and working correctly will still not be reaching you. So the alerts would still not have been reaching you because of the exceptions that were happening. And so as a result, until the issue has been resolved, these will still be stuck. So like I said, the help desk on EMVO's end will always be available for any questions or concerns or any support required to address the process. Now I will give the floor to my colleague from SaltSoft, Richard Booth. Richard, are you here?
I am indeed. Bear with me 1 second. So good afternoon, everybody. So I'm Richard Booth. I'm the operations manager here at SolidSoft Reply. Also joining me on the call is Conor Mainwaring, who's our support subject matter expert for the EU Hub. So what we're going to cover in this part of the presentation is what commonly goes wrong and how they can be rectified. And also there are other routes as well in there to hopefully assist you. So just a very quick piece about SolidSoft Reply. So SolidSoft Reply effectively looks after the EU Hub on behalf of the EMVO. We manage multiple systems within the EMVS, and we're a GS1 provider as part of, and we're part of the bigger global Reply group. My contact details are at the bottom of the page should you wish to reach out at any point. Though obviously any support issues, I do ask that you log them obviously with the EMVO help desk in the first instance to go through that procedure. So let's start at the most basic level in terms of hub connections. Ultimately, you can connect to the EU Hub in one of 3 ways. That's either a direct connection via a dedicated gateway provider, or alternatively via a shared gateway provider, such as the EMVO gateway. When an alert occurs, my apologies. So what do you need in order to connect to the EU Hub? Well, for alerts to get back to you, you need a certificate, you need an endpoint, you need a session token from the hub, and you also need to use the SDK, which is .NET or .java, which are the supported languages, or of course you can use software as a service. The documentation on how to use the callback features and functionality there is, and the alert endpoints is all detailed in the technical info pack, which is on the OBP portal of the onboarding section. If you do run into any difficulties at all, please do reach out via the EMVO help desk. They can offer some integration support and also connection issues. Likewise, with this new process, if you receive an email saying about an alert and you need a bit more information about what could help you resolve that, again, if you reach out to the help desk, and they can hopefully guide you with a little bit of info. But hopefully what I'm about to share today will also assist you in that process. So here we've got the basic traffic flow of the EU Hub. Normal transactions originating from the OBP system are sent to the OBP interface, and updates are received back from the hub, usually in the form of callbacks. For the EU Hub to send any product-related notifications, such as alerts, you have to register an endpoint. And to do that, you need the OBP endpoint address and a public certificate that it'll use to encrypt the messages with. You need to register that service, and you can register up to 2 endpoints. Each endpoint can have an active and an inactive configuration. So a question for you on here is, when was the last time your endpoint received an alert? Do you know that? I do encourage you after this webinar to go and have a look at that. Make sure your endpoint's running. Is it running with the latest certificate? And some of the other pieces of information we'll give you as this webinar progresses. As you'll see later, just because your system's working and transacting does not guarantee that your unsolicited endpoint is receiving alerts correctly. How regularly do you check the health of it? You know, have you got it continuously monitored, etc.? So why is it important? Well, from an OBP perspective, you know, if you're not maintaining that endpoint, you might not receive alerts for potentially falsified medicines, or you could receive duplicate alerts. From an EU Hub perspective, if your endpoint isn't maintained, it is possible for it to have a negative impact on the hub, especially if a high volume of alerts are received from a market. Failed deliveries typically result in a retry. And if there's a large volume of those, it can have an impact. It is possible for it to have an impact on other OBPs because the hub is having to process a large volume of alerts that it's unable to fully deliver the first time of trying. So you can see from there that it's generally, you know, a very good idea for everybody to maintain their endpoints in order to keep the system running smoothly for the whole community. The EU Hub will retry sending an alert. So if your system's temporarily offline for some maintenance for a few hours, that's not the end of the world, and it will retry after sort of up to 24 to 72 hours. The exact time depends on the exception type that the hub receives. I touched on this earlier. So just as another note on this, you will typically be able to carry on managing your products in the hub, even if an endpoint's been disabled, as the two are separate. But you might not receive any alerts. And this is one of the things we come across frequently, which is that if we say to somebody an endpoint's not working correctly, they think it possibly is because their main system is. And you do have to remember there is a disconnect, if you like, between the two. The endpoint does need some specific maintenance carrying out in order to keep it operational. So what can go wrong? Well, I'd like to break things down into 3 categories, and that's certificates, capacity, and configuration. What I'm going to do now is for each of these different errors that the hub will report, I'm going to go through each of those. Now, they aren't visible directly to you, but those errors will be included if you're contacted by EMVO as part of the new process to inform you of an endpoint issue. In addition, the content should also help as a pointer to common issues that we see. Before I move on also, I think I would like to just again encourage you all to review any processes you've got around endpoints and systems and when certificates are renewed, just to make sure those endpoints are fully managed. So security token validation exception is first, and this is the one we see most commonly. This, if there's only one item you take away from this webinar, it's this one. This occurs typically when an OBP is using a certificate that has expired. It's a relatively straightforward fix, which is to get your new certificate and then register that certificate using the new valid certificate, performing the process products service subscription to register it, and then performing a process products service subscription role to request that it activates the newly registered endpoint And that also ensures that it's the primary endpoint with which to deliver alerts. Now, I did say I would emphasize this one because this is something we have seen a number of times. When you update your system that you normally transact with, you do have to update your endpoint as well with that new certificate that you've got. The endpoint is not typically updated automatically. So we have seen instances where a system's running a new certificate, but the endpoint is still running an expired certificate, which is where we see the errors occurring. So you need to remember that the endpoint is not typically updated. It does require those SDK calls to update and roll a subscription. If you've got two endpoints, you obviously need to ensure that it's a valid certificate on both of those. Server too busy. This exception occurs when a receiving service running on the OBP client endpoint is too busy to accept requests. The typical resolution, well, this can be caused by an increase in alert traffic intended for your endpoint. So it may be that the number of alerts have effectively outgrown your endpoint. So simply it's a case of looking at your endpoint and ensuring it's being sized according to the incoming load. That may have increased, or it could be for some reason that you're receiving more alerts than you would typically expect, which might trigger obviously another investigation into why that is. Endpoint not found exception. This occurs if there's an issue on the receiver of the registered alert endpoint for the OBP. It typically occurs because the client endpoint isn't listening when the EU hub attempted to deliver the alert. The typical resolution for this, well, it's ensure that the alert endpoint's address is correct and it's listening. There are other multiple causes that can trigger this alert. And so often we do treat this on a case-by-case basis via a support request. But obviously we ask that before you log that support request, just check that, for example, your endpoint is registered correctly, the address hasn't changed, and your firewall's correctly configured, and the VM or machine or whatever you're running it on is up and running. So just cover off those basics before logging a ticket, and then we can obviously assist you if there's some deeper issues at work then. Helper service exception. I don't expect we'll see much of these at the moment, but it might be once we get a new schema version come out. We get this when an OBP endpoint has been registered with a previous version of a schema, an out-of-date version. Again, the resolution to this is similar to the certificate by doing the process product service subscription to register the updated endpoint using a valid certificate, and then another process product service subscription role in order to activate that endpoint and make sure it's primary again. I think there's possibly a schema version coming out in a few versions time, and obviously this is something that might come to the fore then. I don't believe we've updated it for a little while. Timeout exception. So this typically occurs when the hub sent an alert to the OBP endpoint, but it hasn't received a reply. That can obviously be caused for a number of different reasons, but primarily it's often caused because the client system hasn't acknowledged receiving the alert. The alerts might have been received and might have been delivered, but the hub sees it as a failure because it hasn't had that acknowledgement back. So from an OBP perspective, it's a case of checking to make sure that your system is correctly acknowledging receipt of the alerts. Now, the easiest way of for yourselves to ensure that, to see whether this is happening is if you start to see multiple instances of what is the same alert. So effectively, you're seeing duplicates within your system. There are several other configuration errors that can occur. Two of them are sort of message security and protocol exceptions. These are typically caused by misconfigured security settings, incompatible bindings, incorrect endpoint addresses, and similar configurations. These are very much done on a case-by-case basis because there's multiple items that could trigger them, both across different systems. They are typically configuration issues on an OBP endpoint, or how they've been developed, set up, and so we do often have to look at that side of things, and we treat them on a case-by-case basis. So if you do experience this and not able to track down by looking at the SDK about what's going on, obviously do log a support ticket with these, and we'll assist you where we can. So, in summary, all OBPs should have an endpoint with which to receive alerts, to make sure that you always are guaranteed to get everything directly from the hub. Ensure that any unsolicited endpoints have current certificates, and keep an eye on those expiry dates. Remember that you do need to update your endpoint when you update your main system, if you're renewing a certificate. Make sure it's registered with a supported schema version and check that capacity. Do ensure you acknowledge alerts from the hub to make sure that the hub it knows that you've got that alert. And if you update your certificate, do that subscription and the subscription role again to re-register. And that all being said, Matisse, I'll hand it back, I guess, for the Q&A.
Apologies. Thank you, Richard. So we have time set aside for any questions that you may have, be they more technical or of clarification regarding what Richard explained, or even regarding the process. Sorry. And I believe that this is me. So in any case, if any questions, can raise your hand and then we will address those. Asa.
Yes, hello, my name is Åsa Thorsson from ABVI. So we have had these discussions with the EMVO help desk before, and we don't want to have an endpoint. We are getting our alerts through AMS and through the national systems, and this will be an additional part of the SAP solution we have, and we don't want to set that up. So for now, it's been closed, and we would like it to keep it that way. Is that possible?
So on this front, we will discuss. However, it is part of the technical onboarding to have an endpoint registered to ensure that the information from the hub can reach you in the case of not having the AMS. That was how the system was set up. So of course, you are receiving your alerts through another means. It is good to inform us, for us to be aware of the fact that you're not using it, just to avoid the hub calling too often or back to back, and avoiding unnecessary noise. But as it stands, we will have to get back to you. So surely, if clarification is needed on that front, you can always contact our help desk and we will redirect you to the appropriate person.
Yeah, I mean, we're fine as it is right now when it's disconnected. According to the presentation, it said that it should be like that until we solve the problem. Yes. We will not solve the problem because we need to then handle two systems, which can be resource triggering and also be an additional cost for us. So I just want to know if we can keep it closed. for a longer period instead of just for a short time while we should solve a problem, which we're not going to do.
Of course. So as I said, this will have to be discussed as at a higher level. I am not able to provide you with a decision straight away. So if you have communications open with our help desk already, please reach out, and we will address those concerns.
Okay. Well, I don't have the. We closed that before the summer. So if you have any information with regards to this, it would be nice if you could send it out.
Of course.
Thank you.
And in any case, we can always address that in a different ticket.
Perfect. Thank you.
Welcome. Mima?
Hi everyone, thank you. My name is Mima and I'm speaking from Tofstad AG. I'm also a little bit confused by this endpoint topic and monitoring of alerts, because I would consider these as two not so same topics. So regarding monitoring of alerts, this actually depends on the requirements of national authorities.
Yes.
A lot of markets are requesting that we have access to their own software solution, meaning that we are choosing to monitor alerts in the solution that is required by national authority. If this is their internal solution, this means that these alerts will not be monitored in EM solution due to double work. So I need to ask, how are you analyzing and monitoring whether we are focusing on alerts and overviewing them? Specifically, when we talk about the monitoring of alerts in internal solutions of national systems. So I'm really confused by this topic and monitoring of alerts.
Okay, so it's I will clarify. This is not regarding the monitoring of alerts themselves. So of course, all NMVOs have their requirements for addressing alerts. We're talking on a technical level of ensuring that on your end, the system that you are using is receiving alerts correctly. So the endpoint that is registered, so the item that is ensuring that you receive these alerts, because the alerts go through the hub as well, is what we're talking about here. So long as you're receiving them, this is where the conversation here in this forum ends. So we're talking on a pure technical point of view. You might be then in a solution that is in a situation, that is similar to the one that Asa just presented, where you're using an alternative rather than receiving the alerts directly. You could also be going through a gateway provider where they take care of registering the endpoint for you, or where the endpoint is already registered and maintained on their end. I don't know, Richard.
I need to ask counter question. How can I, as spoke of OBP, confirm to you that I received correct alerts, correct amount of alerts? So from technical perspective, I can just confirm to you I received some alerts, but I'm not in a position to confirm to you whether this list is correct or not. Especially we had a case since this what you are talking about and requesting requires from us to have 3, 5, 6, that 10 solutions and compare them in order to confirm to you whether quality of data that we received is correct or not. So we need to have multiple solutions and compare the quality between them to see discrepancy, to be able to tell you whether something is missing or not. So from OBP perspective, I can just confirm to you I'm receiving alerts. But then, regarding quality of the alerts, this is something that you are to say to me, actually.
Yes. So again, the conversation here is strictly to ensure that the alerts that you need to receive are being received on your end. So that is, if that is working, then there should be no issues.
But I cannot confirm you all alerts.
No,
I can
but that,
confirm you some alerts.
of course. Of
But
course.
this
But then,
doesn't confirm the quality of the data that
but
we
that
are exchanging.
we're not talking about quality of data. We're talking about the exchange of data here, right? So assuming that you are receiving alerts, then your endpoint will be configured correctly and will not be experiencing the issues that were explained here. I don't know if there's, Richard, if there's another way of phrasing this.
Well, I mean, I think simply put is what you've been saying, Matisse, is that what we wanted to focus on here. I think there's obviously multiple subjects regarding data quality, etc. that could be discussed, but really the primary aim of this session was simply to make sure that people are receiving
En la carpeta de
alerts.
formación.
Because obviously we have seen situations where they're not because of very old certificates, and in that situation you wouldn't receive anything, or you'd be receiving duplicates. And so as long as you're receiving them, then something's working along the lines.
Sorry, but I am very worried about the fact that neither you nor me are able to define the quality of data, and you started this presentation with the point that you will block the endpoints that are causing issues.
Yes,
so,
but okay.
I am
I
very
may,
worried about the fact that this is
Mima,
completely undefined, and we do have your statement that there will be restrictive measures against endpoints.
if I may clarify something, we are the quality of data is not being addressed here. This is in terms of specifically quality of data. This is out of the scope of this topic here. We are addressing only endpoints that are throwing exceptions, meaning only the endpoints for which you will not be receiving the alerts. So long as you are receiving alerts, then you will not be contacted. This will not be monitored. Again, because we are doing this on a quarterly basis, we are not doing this for only 1 or 2, but we are proceeding to an analysis of endpoints that are causing issues that are recurring over a long period of time. It is not pertaining to the quality of your data. The quality of data is taken care of separately. We're talking on an exclusively technical aspect here.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just add as well something that hopefully will put your mind to a bit of rest here, which is that, and it was one of the items actually I included in the presentation there, which is that if an endpoint itself is disabled or blocked, that does not stop your system functioning. It won't stop you sending transactions to the hub. You will continue transacting as normal from if we have to disable that endpoint. The second thing is, if we need to take action to disable an endpoint, it's typically because, overwhelmingly, because we are seeing it's not operating correctly, such as it's simply not receiving alerts. And therefore, our action of disabling it is in order to protect the broader hub. And the fact that it's not working means that by us disabling, you're not actually losing anything, because you're not receiving them anyway, because it's not actually functioning. So, you know, there's not, so the request to you in that instance is, hey, look, you might want to look at this endpoint. It's not, you know, from our perspective, it's not functioning correctly. However, your system itself, outside those broader endpoints, continues to transact, even if we've disabled the endpoint. So you will still be able to add products to the hub and all those other normal transactions, which is kind of why I had at the start about that. The key difference is between, you know, having your endpoint, your unsolicited endpoint in which you receive alerts, and your main system where you're actually doing the transactions. I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you very much for clarifying,
Thank you.
especially the point that was visible on the presentation, that there will be no interruption regarding exchange of data with EU Hub. This was clear. And actually, that was my follow-up question. So basically, you are stating that you are blocking the endpoints that are not used.
To an extent, yeah. I mean, we're doing reviews of them, and obviously we're reaching out. And then if we're not, as I said, the final process there is still working its way through to ourselves. But the whole aim of it is to make sure we keep the hub operating as efficiently as possible for all of its users. And the last thing anybody wants is the hub sitting there trying to send alerts through to somewhere that's not listening. Because that can cause delays for other OBPs. But essentially, as I've said, if there is an issue with the endpoint, it isn't getting there anywhere, and therefore our disable move is simply within the hub. Wouldn't really make a lot of difference directly to yourselves in that instance. Obviously, I appreciate there's some things Matisse will need to clarify later on, but that she said that they will obviously do.
Just for the end, before I mute myself and leave other colleagues also to ask questions. So we have your confirmation that endpoint will be blocked only for exceptions when they are not receiving alerts. So there is no other exemption for which endpoint will be blocked.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Sohail?
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. I have a query because we are using SAP ICH as our middleware, and we are getting we are getting all the alerts, from the system for Helion. Okay, so there is a case in one instance, we raised a query to from our OBP portal to EMVO help desk saying that we are supposed to receive an alert, but that was not received at our end. So, and in this case, what should we be doing? There are a few instances where the EU hub might be down for due to unknown reasons, and sometimes you're not getting right alerts to our SAP ICH system. Actually, we have raised a ticket to EMVO help desk, but I think that the issue is still not answered, to be honest.
Okay. I was going to say my simple answer to that is obviously because of the duration of this, we can't go into every case by case. But what I would say is 100% log that ticket, and it's sometimes tracking down things about why things have happened or not happened takes a while. As you appreciate, it's a very complex system. But we do encourage you to log a ticket if you do see something strange, or and then obviously we'll need to try and get to the bottom of why that's happened. Could be an issue on your system, could be an issue somewhere else. But obviously we do have incident tickets, problem tickets, etc. to investigate why these things happen sometimes.
Okay, maybe if I can mail you, Richard, will that be okay with the EMVO help desk ticket number, which we have already raised?
If you send me the ticket number, and we can I can certainly have a word with EMVO, and we can have a look and see where that is.
Sure.
If I may make sure that
Please.
you are still using the ticket. So if you're adding Richard, then add Richard to the ticket trail just so that we have traceability on the requests that are coming in, and we are following our internal processes, of course, because they still need to be taken care of on our end by our service desk.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Right.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, as I said, we try and operate. Obviously, we try and operate so EMVO looks after all of the service desk and does initial triages. We come in if we need to for escalations and the likes. But it is a complex system, and sometimes investigating this stuff does take a period of time.
Sure, I'll collect that ticket which you have raised, to be honest, to EMVO help desk, and I'll share it to you. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, sure.
And is there any specific email address that I need to share this ticket number, please, so that it can be verified?
Sorry, I think I misheard that. Matisse, did you
Okay.
repeat that?
Can I have
No,
an email address, please, so that I can share the ticket to you?
Ah, okay. I'll
Yeah.
tell you what. Well, it was at the beginning of the pack. So if you, so Matisse will share the pack out there. But
Okay.
also, if you do send in another email to them, and I'll also ask my colleague to have a look and see if we can see it as well. Sorry, what was your company name? Sorry.
Helion.
Helion. Sorry. Just then we can have a look for that as well. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Thank you so much for the clarification. Thank you. I'll do that one.
Are there any other questions? Dorota?
Yes, hello. I have a question, two questions exactly. One is quite easy. If you could send the presentation
Of
for
course.
email, is it possible?
Yes.
I would write in my email via chat if it's possible. I'm from Haskollek, Poland.
If you
I'm not-
registered through the
Yes, I was registered through via email, so you should have it.
Yes, so the link to the description to the presentation, sorry, will be sent
Okay.
over as same as the in the same way as the link for the meeting. So you will receive the presentation in a PDF format after the call.
So this is the first question. I have the answer. But my second question is, our company is not getting alerts from EMVO. We have our own system and we get it from our national system. And we are obliged to manage it within 2 business days. So we don't get it from you. We get it from our system, which name is Koval. Anyway, it's the national system. And we verify it every 2 days. We send a kind of report to our national guide or our national provider. And I'm not sure. It means that I will have to make a verification twice. So if we have the endpoint
So in terms of alerts, if your alerts are managed as per the national requirements, then your alerts are managed as per the national requirements, and your obligations on that front are fulfilled. We're not asking you to check alerts twice, but we are addressing the issue on the technical front for the OBPs that are using their endpoints in order to collect alerts from the hub.
Okay,
All
so
right.
it's enough.
Yes, I think your question relates to the one that was asked earlier by Asa as well.
Yes,
so
I think
again,
it's the
there's
same,
yes, there's no I can't concretely say one thing is correct and the other is not. We do require that on a technical front, your connections are established correctly and safely, just to ensure that the system is working at its most efficient. So on that front, again, if you need specific clarifications in this regard, please open a ticket with our help desk, and then we will also take this on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, we will check it with our spoke, I think, on January.
Yep.
And if we will have any other questions, I will just open the ticket and we will ask via help desk. But that's okay for us. On this moment, this is enough. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on the floor? All right. Then if there are no additional questions, we have a short announcement intervention from one of my colleagues before we close the call.
Thank you, Matthijs. Hello, everyone. Hello from my side. My name is Thanos, and I'm the product owner of EU Hub. I'm going to do a quick recap and update to all of you, and specifically to those that participated to the FMD. And for those that haven't, this is a good opportunity to be aware of the upcoming changes on the EU Hub side. So now we are in release 117, and we plan to introduce the release of 118 of January 2026. Which for you doesn't mean anything at this point. It doesn't impact your system, but once release 1.2 or 120 comes in place, there is going to be an impact on the OBP schema. What does it mean? That means that for the OBPs that are using direct connection, you will have to update your system to be able to communicate with the EU Hub. And for those that, of course, are having gateway providers like SAP or TraceLink, you need to ensure and communicate with your providers of these upcoming chains for them to take any necessary actions in order to be able and keep the connection with the EU Hub. Once again, this was communicated during the FMD, and a communication campaign will start as of next year to keep all of you updated again and again, and give you heads up for the actions that needs to be taken from your side or the gateway provider side. Thank you, Matthijs.
Right. Thank you, Thanos. For any questions that are related to Thanos's intervention, please redirect them to our help desk. We will address those on a separate forum, as this is not the forum planned for this. Thank you very much. As I said, the slides will be shared after the meeting shortly, if not sometime during this week at the latest. And the recording will also be made available to you all. Thank you very much for your attendance, and I wish you a good rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.